Ryan Spilborghs, the pride of Santa Barbara, and he joins us here once again on A's Cast Live. It's great to have you. And, you know, before we start talking about the Colorado Rockies, we always bring up what great job you guys are doing on Sirius XM. We have a lot of your guys on. We were just with Jim Duquette down in Arizona. I had to take Farron to dinner while we were down there.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. That is not very much fun when you have to take Mike Farron to dinner.
And I got to pay. You know, it's not cheap when you take that guy out to dinner. But the show you do, Loud Outs, it's usually the show I'm listening to on the way to the ballpark. Obviously, CJ Nikowski's a friend of our program with the Rangers. He's in town multiple times a year. Brad Lidge. I love your guys' show. It's the show that's hosted by former players. And as we always get perspective by guys who weren't players, or even I love Power. I love Power Alley. I mean, in fact, you got a former GM, but you guys doing it as players. Just talk about how special your guys' show is, and it's a very unique view of our game.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, when it was brought to our attention, I really wanted to continue to get better at broadcasting. I wanted to work on the craft. And so about 7 years ago, as I was getting into my career at MLB Network Radio, I asked our program director, Jordan Greenberg, if there was a possibility that we could do a players hosted show. I wanted to see if I could host a show. And he loved it. He was like, we haven't had that since Kevin Kennedy and Rob Dibble. And I was like, oh, cool. Wow. I was like, let's do it. So I didn't know who my co-host was going to be. And I ended up, you're going to get paired with CJ Nikowski. You're going to start on Saturday mornings at 8:00. I was like, perfect. That way we could cut our teeth. And it was kind of like a nice little experimental ground for us to work on our craft. And CJ and I worked for about 4 years. And this was before people were using Zoom as we're doing right now. We would connect on a device, which is called an access unit. And so I could be in Denver, he could be in Atlanta, and then we just hear our voices. And so we never met each other for years. For 4 years, we're working every Saturday, and we never met each other. And we had, we knew about each other's families and our wives and our kids, and we were becoming really good buddies, but just through work, just through this call-in show, and it developed into a really nice friendship. We finally met back in 2019. I joked that's probably the most nervous I've ever been to meet somebody. I'm not starstruck at all, but to meet the person, it was almost like a long lost pen pal or a long distance relationship with somebody that you've never met. And I didn't know how tall CJ was. I didn't know what color his eyes were going to be. I didn't know any of these things. So it was great. And it's turned into a really fun show. And I also think from our perspective, and you get this, Chris, broadcasting and the craft of it's not like baseball. It takes a really, 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 really long time to get good at it. And it's not something that's natural for most people. It's not something that's natural even for broadcasters. It just takes time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, we always joke with CJ, and we love having him on the show. It's, he's played for almost every team, including Korea. So there's nothing you can't ask him. But your guys' show, it's second to none. Keep doing a great job. Before we get into, I know Brendan Rodgers has gotten hurt, and that's not good. And talking about Chris Bryant and the Rockies, there's two things that I want to address with you that I think people don't understand. Number one, how tough it is to play in elevation. I know a little bit about this. I used to work for the Oakland Raiders. We came there every single year to play the Denver Broncos. And talking to Broncos people, just playing in elevation, everybody just thinks, you get up to the plate, everybody's hitting jacks, you're putting up big numbers. People don't understand health-wise, playing in elevation, then going to sea level, doing that throughout a year is so hard on people's bodies. Educate people that playing in Denver isn't as easy as people think it is.
No, it's not. You come to Denver, you have an IPA, you're hammered. You walk up the stairs, you're winded. And I'll take it away from baseball because I think most people will understand this. NHL, the Avs, they have a better win-loss record at home in the last 10 years than virtually any other hockey team. I wonder why. Same with the Nuggets. And when you come and watch an NBA game, a team like, let's say the Lakers, a big Lakers fan, this happens all the time. You'll hear LeBron James, Anthony Davis, these players will not play in Denver. Why? Why would the NBA not play games in Denver? Because it's been proven that the players that come here, it impacts their body so much, not just for that one game. They get ran out of the gym almost every time, but it impacts them for the days after. So if NBA teams are doing this, if NHL teams are noticing a difference, if the NFL sees the same thing, people get ran out of the stadium in Denver. Do you also wonder why the U.S. Olympic training facilities in Colorado Springs, like anybody ever wonder why that's there?
Yeah.
It's because the elevation. Training at elevation makes it easier for when you go to anywhere else besides here. So you have every single sport is telling you playing at elevation has an impact on your body. And so why would it be any different for a baseball game? And imagine extrapolating a 10-game homestand for a baseball team. The first couple days, it takes a little bit of time to get adjusted. Then you're adjusted. You have other teams coming in. Then you go back on the road. It turns into something that very few teams in Major League Baseball have. I will point this out for you, Chris, and you'll appreciate it. There's 3 teams in Major League Baseball that have truly like an outside variable. It used to be the Texas Rangers with Heat.
Oh,
Heat in the summer with Texas, they would fall like flies. They literally would. You could look up their injury list history from summer months, and they would lead Major League Baseball. Seattle with their travel. They have more travel than any team in Major League Baseball, Seattle. And then Colorado with the altitude. So now you're down to 2 teams in Seattle and Colorado that have 2 variables nobody else deals with.
it's fact. And you look at boxers, whether it was Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya would always go up to Big Bear to train before their big matches. I mean, there's a reason why. But yeah, the health process, it is brutal. Then the other one I wanted to bring up is there's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. Baseball put a team in Denver. We want players to play and spend their entire career with a place. I believe Todd Helton should be a Baseball Hall of Famer. Always loved my time with him. He's a great guy. I mean, we talked Peyton Manning in the University of Tennessee with him. He's great to have on the show, but what a great player, defender, offensive player. And Larry Walker was the same thing. Like, people want to start penalizing guys for playing in Denver. And it's like, wait a minute, if we're going to put a franchise there and we want players to spend their entire career there and be a part of the community, that's what we encourage. We don't want guys going to all these different organizations and being mercenaries. You then can't turn around at the end of their career and then bang them for it and say, yeah, we're not going to vote for him. I just think that's wrong. I know how much help means to you. I just think it's wrong that we look at a guy like Todd Helton who did everything right, and we're now going to penalize him for playing at Coors Field.
Well, that's more of a media bias than actual, players that have played against Todd don't look at him as not a Hall of Famer. It's media bias. It's East Coast bias. We're in a different time zone. People will point at, the home road splits, and then I say, okay, all right, you wanted to play that game. You're going to say that this guy benefited from home road splits. Okay, then let's look at the road splits. Let's truly look at them. And his road splits are better than many Hall of Famers. His OPS numbers on the road are better than many Hall of Famers, better than Ryan Sandberg. You can go better than Tony Gwynn. I mean, like you could start throwing names out there and people are like, whoa. You can't do that. You can't say he's better than Tony Gwynn. I was like, really? Then look up the numbers and then compare them. I get it. Todd didn't have 3,000 hits, and I'm never saying that Tony Gwynn isn't one of the best hitters I've ever seen, because he was. But when you start really digging into those numbers, that East Coast bias, the mountain time zone bias, the Coors Field bias, it really should be gone. We have enough neutralized stats that show the true story and the true value of Todd Helton. So I think he's a Hall of Famer. And, anybody that wants to make an argument against him, you better come with your facts. You better come with facts, because I will come back with some too.
I look at the start of the season. The big news was LA losing Gavin Lux, but in division, Brendan Rodgers going down with the dislocated shoulder, could need surgery. Where are we with that? That's huge news out of your camp.
Yeah, it's too early to tell. I mean, I think the Rockies are not optimistic. They're very. I think they're it looks bleak at this moment, but it's also early. Usually when you have some sort of shoulder displacement, you do have shoulder inflammation. You just kind of have to wait before, jumping to a conclusion that he's going to have surgery. We do know that Lucas Gilbreth, another reliever for the Rockies, is going to have Tommy John. So that's not good news. That happened today. So yeah, the Rockies are in a bad spot, especially if they lose Brendan Rodgers. Rodgers was part of a trade discussion this offseason. I thought maybe he might be a trade candidate at some point, and if they don't have that asset, it's clear that they're not going to move him as well. So it's a devastating blow for the Rockies because they can't afford to lose any of their everyday position players, especially when they have some sort of trade value as well.
You look at Bryant, we got to know him a little bit when he came out here, played for the Giants. Everybody loved him, obviously, in Chicago. He signs that big deal and then can't stay healthy. And that's got to be brutal. Like, you sign this mega deal, you finally sign it, you make a commitment to a franchise, you want to be the franchise guy. Obviously, the ghost of Arenado is still there, and you only play in 45 games. Just how tough was this year for him, and how big is year 2 for him there in Denver?
Well, it's funny. If you ask him, he said it was his best baseball year he's had as far as like no pressure, mental state, family, new family members. His wife gave birth to a set of twins. So from like his personal lifestyle standpoint and life, he said that was the most enjoyable year he's ever had. From the Rockies perspective, that can't happen. You need to have Chris Bryant. And so, yeah, I mean, it's the first year of a long-term contract. I think the Rockies are trying to forget. Rockies fans are trying to forget what happened with Nolan, but it's unforgettable. Nolan will be a future Hall of Famer. And so, like, there's no replacing him no matter what. And we've said this, like, the Arenado trade is always going to be a black eye on the Rockies. There's no way to, no matter what. I mean, it is what it is. You got a future Hall of Famer that you traded away. And so, like, that's just going to be the fan sentiment. And I agree with it. I mean, I feel the same way. So when it comes to Chris Bryant, I don't think he has to fill in anybody's shoes. I just think he has to play. And so far, he's off to a really nice camp. And it would just be nice to keep him on the field for as long as possible.
We've had Dan O'Dowd on this program now with MLB Network, former GM of the Rockies, got the Rockies to the World Series. And we had a little conversation about this, and I'm really interested how you feel about this. If you had a blueprint, because the field there in Denver, I've been on it. It's amazing how big it is, the kind of speed that you need. We've already talked about the wear and tear of elevation. But if you could build a blueprint, pitching-wise, position player-wise, what would that be to make the Rockies a winner and have a sustainable winner?
I mean, it's not going to be the same thing every single year. I mean, sometimes you'll have good pitching. You're going to be short on offense. Other years you're going to have good offense and short on pitching. So I think with Colorado, you have to be more nimble than most. They are a top 15 in salary by a franchise, which might surprise people. They actually spend more money this year than the St. Louis Cardinals. So I do think when it comes to outfield play, I'm a huge advocate for outfield play, especially at Coors Field. Majority of baseballs, you think like you hit a ball in the air, it's a homer. It's not true. There's more balls hit in front of outfielders than there are over the heads of outfielders. So I am a advocate. If I was to use, let's say, like Oakland's model or Tampa Bay's model, just in a different way, Tampa uses relievers, young controllable relievers, and runs them over and over and over again through their bullpen. I would probably do the same thing with center field. I would probably look at center field as a youthful spot where I want my center fielder fast. I don't care about the offensive numbers, and I just have somebody go get it. And we know that over time at Coors Field, as we've already talked about, the wear and tear on the body. If you have young center fielders, 23, 24, 25, 26, then they get into that arbitration eligible and even the free agency, you can let them go. And just recirculate. And so there's one way that you can have a little bit better defensive efficiency in the outfield. And then as far as position players, I think you have to be willing to trade position players. I don't think the Rockies have in years past. And you do have to go out and acquire pitchers because most pitchers, they're not going to sign as a free agent. So you have to trade for them.
Yeah, that's so true. Get a free the days of Darryl Kyle and Mike Hampton. I mean, it's tough to get guys to go there. Let's end on this. For us, we're in retool mode, obviously. We go on our runs. We had 18, 19, 20. We had 12, 13, 14. And then after that, we started retool. But we got some young guys who a lot of people don't know about, but they are exciting. We got some athletes. We got the new rules. I think, the A's, we've always relied on home runs and walks. I think we're going to be stealing a lot of bags this year. For the Rockies, what makes you excited for this camp? What are some names? What are some guys where you go, hey, when you guys are watching on TV, this is what we should be looking for?
I mean, there's some really nice. First off, they've had really nice veteran pitchers for a while. Kyle Freeland's pitched really well. Herman Marcus has pitched really well there. Those are really fun arms. Daniel Bard last season got an MVP vote. And if you're like, what? How did a closer get an MVP vote? Yeah, because there was 3 pitchers in all Major League Baseball that had over 30 saves, had the over 70 innings pitched, and like a certain strikeout rate. It was like Edwin Diaz, the kid from Cleveland, the Guardians, and Daniel Bard. So there is some really good pitching with the Rockies. Young pitching. Ryan Feltner is pretty exciting. We also have this kid that's going to play shortstop this year named Ezekiel Tovar. That lit the Double-A on fire last year, and then a really kind of hair on fire type player, Zach Veen, who I believe is leading spring training in stolen bases. So there are some good athletes, there are some good pitching, but this division is really difficult. I think if there's going to be anything that benefits the Rockies and Oakland this year, it's going to be the new schedule. So not having to take on the Astros 19 times or the Mariners 19 times. I think he's going to benefit just like the Rockies are going to benefit not facing the Dodgers and the Giants 19 times over the course of a year.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at Torey Lovullo, we love down in Arizona. He's a former A. You take their record against the Dodgers out, they're over 500.
Yeah.
They had a pretty good year. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden you throw that record against the Dodgers in, they're under 500, and you're like, I mean, it's just certain teams. Same thing with the Mariners last year, got hammered by the Astros. They got in the playoffs, but, playing the team that hammers you the most less does not hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad to see that change. I think that's something a lot of A's fans, Rockies fans are going to enjoy, is seeing other teams that aren't the Dodgers, Giants, Astros, Mariners.
Well, we truly appreciate the time. We always like having you on the program. Just want to let you know we're always out there promoting Sirius XM, the channel. It's second to none when you're driving in your car, and I promote it. Hey, it's like The Athletic. You want great journalism, you got to subscribe to it. You want a great product, and you want to listen to baseball, Channel 89. Also for football, I love Channel 88. I mean, it's worth subscribing to terrestrial radio. It's got its issues, but we're always listening to you. I'm listening to you on the way to the ballpark. Your show is fantastic, and let's do this again soon.
Okay, anytime, Tony. I appreciate it.
Ryan Spilborghs, Spilly, join us right here on A's Cast Live, breaking down the Colorado Rockies